Hi, welcome to another Dragon Ball Z Kakarot discussion video. Recently, I've been seeing a lot of people, including some YouTubers, saying that Dragon Ball Super will be included in the story of DBZ Kakarot. Now, while this may very well happen in the land of your dreams, there is no evidence to support this. These claims are being drawn from this small statement that the Bandai community manager gave at the end of an interview.
So there you guys go. That's a little bit more info on Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. There's more to this game than just the Dragon Ball Z saga.
Now, if you think that means Dragon Ball Super will be in Kakarot, you're not listening to what he's saying. You're just hearing what you want to hear. Not just Z doesn't mean we'll go to Super. It doesn't even hint at Super, especially not once we take all the information we have into consideration, because the question remains, how much story will Dragon Ball Z Kakarot cover? Previously on this channel, we asked the question of whether or not Goku would be the only playable character, and you guys really liked the way I started that video.
No. That's the answer you came looking for. No, kind of. Probably not is what I should be saying.
I just gave you the answer right away, but this time I am not super confident that I have the right answer. I am confident that we will see more than the Frieza saga, but how much more? I'm not entirely sure. And that's what this video is about. Presenting you guys with the information and letting you draw your own conclusions. When a game covers a Dragon Ball story, there are 4 natural stop points. The Saiyan saga with Vegeta as the final boss, the Frieza saga with Frieza as the final boss, the Android saga with Cell as the final boss, and the Buu saga with Kid Buu as the final boss. The very first trailer showed us Frieza right away, so from the very start we knew that the game would at least go that far, and we've been wondering for a couple of months if it would go even further, or maybe even further beyond! Fast forward to E3 2019, we get another trailer on the Microsoft stage. This trailer does not show anything past the Frieza saga once again, so the question starts to pop up, is this all there's going to be? A question that IGN posed to the producer of the game.
Will this go beyond the Frieza saga?
Well, Max, I don't want to sound like a broken record. We can't reveal that as of yet, but I think, going back to what I mentioned earlier, it's going to be a very immersive and fun experience for the fans, and we promise not to let them down.
They were still not ready to talk about that, but they always leave us with a promise of not letting us down. Now, this doesn't tell us much on its own, but when the same question was asked by Shaq News, the answer changed very slightly.
Yes, in terms of how far this covers the story, I think a lot of you are wondering, how much farther we're going to go beyond the Frieza saga, but I'm afraid I can't really reveal any more than what's been said already at this moment. So please, stay tuned for more upcoming news in the near future. With that said, I like to think that we won't disappoint any of the Dragon Ball Z fans.
So the phrasing on this is a bit like, we can't reveal how much further beyond Frieza we're going to go, which hints at them going beyond Frieza already, just doesn't hint at how much further, which is one of the reasons why I believe the story won't end at the Frieza saga. Not only that, but Shaq News actually asks another question, a question about how transformations will work in this game, and this was their answer.
Again, another very, very good question, and yes, there is going to be a lot of transformation in this game. As far as how that's going to unfold and develop, I'm going to have to tease you once more and say that that's going to be coming soon.
There is going to be a lot of transformation. If the game ends at the Frieza saga, all we have as far as transformations go is the Kaioken and the Super Saiyan. I wouldn't necessarily say that's a lot of transformations. Even if the game goes through the Android saga, all that gives us is Super Saiyan 2 at the very end, bringing us to a total of 3 transformations. However, when the producer says that there's going to be a lot of transformations, he doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to transform in many different ways, into many different forms. It could just mean that you're going to transform a lot during these battles. And personally, I don't think you'll have the chance to do that before the Android saga. That's really when Super Saiyan became a bit more common and transformations took place more often. So at this point, I'd say it's safe to assume that we'll see some, if not all, of the Android saga in Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. They can't talk about how much the story it's gonna cover, but they promise not to disappoint. They can't reveal how much further beyond the Frieza saga it goes, and there are going to be a lot of transformations. These are 3 hints hints that strongly suggest Frieza will not be the end of the game. So we're gonna go on and assume there will be more than Frieza, and say the Android saga will also be covered. But what about Majin Buu? There are absolutely no official hints pointing towards Majin Buu at all. There are a couple of unofficial hints, which are these two tweets from Geekdom and PS360HD. These are two YouTubers who have been doing this way longer than me, and both of them were at E3 2019 and left these tweets around that time hinting that Kakarot will cover the entirety of Z. Now, you can just take them on their word and believe that this is confirmed, that we'll see Majin Buu, and to be very clear, I don't think they're lying. But they also didn't provide any sources for any of this information. They didn't say who they talked to or what they said to make them arrive at this conclusion. Maybe it was someone in PR who took a guess and it was misinterpreted as fact. Maybe it was someone who didn't know what the hell they were talking about and they just wanted to impress the big influencers. There's a lot that could have happened. The point is, we don't know exactly where this information is coming from. There are too many unknown variables for me to take these tweets as facts and tell you that everything is confirmed. One thing's for sure though, this game will not include Super. Why? Well, that was actually one of the first questions IGN asked the producer.
Is this going to be Goku's entire life, or is it his sort of life and times just in Z? Will it extend to Super?
So I think the name kind of gives you a little bit of a hint. It's called, of course, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. So that, the implication is we're going to be following Goku's experience in life through mainly the Z franchise.
It's not completely out of the question that Super will be included in the game, maybe even as DLC, but this is a very big hint that Super will not be a part of the game. But if that's the case, then what was Dimitri talking about when he said there's more to this game than the Dragon Ball Z saga? Well, I think what he meant by that is actually pretty clear. The last question asked during this interview was what makes this different from any other Dragon Ball game that has come out before. And the answer was long, and it talked about gameplay aspects, story aspects, and one of the ideas that it conveyed was that this game is very faithful to the events of Z, but also includes some original stories within it. Even outside of battle, even outside of these original stories, you will get to play as Goku, gathering materials, flying around, having big lunches with friends. These little moments that weren't really represented in Dragon Ball Z in the anime or the manga, so in other words, more than the Z saga. This is something that Bandai also tweeted out, a message from Akira Toriyama saying that the game includes backstories that haven't been told in the manga, and I believe this is what Dimitri was talking about. These little bonuses, these extras to the Z story. He wasn't talking about Dragon Ball Super. And with so much original content happening between the major events of the Z saga, a question that has popped up very often was whether or not the movies were also covered in the game.
In terms of the movies, what I can say is this game has been designed as really kind of an immersive experience for the Dragon Ball Z anime TV series experience. So most definitely this game is designed to be the kind of so-called Dragon Ball Z experience, and in doing so the movies unfortunately won't be making an appearance in the game. So this game is really focused on kind of the Dragon Ball Z anime, the TV series. So there isn't going to be anything coming in from the movies.
3 interviews, 1 answer. The movies will not be covered, but there will be bonus elements, the original stories we talked about, some Easter eggs like Ada and Nam, who don't really show up in Z, but they will be in the game anyway. It's more than Z, but it doesn't mean movies. It doesn't mean Dragon Ball Super. It means these little Easter eggs. It means these original stories. So instead of looking forward, maybe should we actually be looking backwards? Instead of asking how far will the story go, has anyone asked where the story starts? Or does everyone just assume that it starts with Z? Does everyone just assume that it starts with Goku arriving at Master Roshi's place with Gohan in his lab, Gohan getting kidnapped by Reddits, which takes us into the E3 gameplay demo where we free roam the world and then fight Reddits at the end? But aren't we forgetting something? The very first trailer, when the game was first announced, had a Goku versus Piccolo fight. This never happened in Z, so could it be that the game actually starts before Z? Here's how I interpret what happens in this trailer, and bear in mind, this is a trailer, this is heavily edited, so a few things could be misleading. We see Goku sitting in a forest. Gohan is there, and he calls out to his father, but Goku is just sitting there with his eyes closed, focusing on something, maybe doing image training. When he opens his eyes, Gohan isn't there anymore. Instead, we see a shadowy figure who turns out to be Piccolo. In my opinion, this is where the game begins. Before Goku flies to Master Roshi's place with Gohan, he was just sitting around his house training inside his mind, or maybe remembering his fight with Piccolo, figuring out how he could defeat him the next time they meet. So the fight with Piccolo doesn't really happen in the real world, it happens in a flashback sequence or just inside his mind. This could be where you learn how to play the game, the tutorial section, before you take Gohan in your Nimbus to Master Roshi's and the Z story begins. It's obviously just a theory, but so far that's the best explanation I have for the Goku vs Piccolo fight. Notice that when they start fighting, there's a cut that then leads to the beam struggle, and both characters are pretty beat up. What happened during that cut? The characters were fresh before it faded to white. The cut could actually be where the tutorial happens, where you take control of Goku and learn the mechanics. And at the end of the tutorial, you have the beam struggle that we see in the cutscene. Goku wakes up, takes his Nimbus to Master Roshi's with Gohan, and from there you have Raditz, you have Nappa, you have Vegeta, you have whatever happens in Namek until the Frieza fight. I'm not sure how much of Namek will get cut, and then probably the Android Saga. As for the Buu Saga, it really is still up in the air for me, but what do you think? I give you the facts, I give you my opinion, I'd like to know yours too. How far do you think Dragon Ball Z Kakarot's story will go? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, thank you very much for watching. My name is Globku, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.